All right. What is up, everybody? We're back. This is the Eddie Live Podcast, episode 293. I'm here with Agustin Chen. Brother
yes,
Chen.
Yes.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. And we can't forget. Are we going to do this?
We are. Okay. Don't forget that we are sponsored by myself, Eddie's Cantina, the Reaper sauce. If you guys need some, we've got a few bottles left. We're going to make a new batch after these two are done. We're going to have some of it a little bit later. So, yes.
Maybe with the Hakka pork tacos. I'm looking very much forward to it.
The Hakka pork tacos, exactly. Yes. I'm excited to have you try those, my man. Dude, we met like a week ago, 2 weeks ago in Hong Kong.
Yeah, on a magical ferry ride.
That's right. Yes. And appreciate you taking care of us over there. So I thought when you're here, got to get you on the podcast. And so.
Yes, and then I didn't realize there's so much that goes behind the scenes setting this up. So I very much appreciate.
No, my pleasure, man.
Everything, yeah.
My pleasure.
For sure.
Yeah, so like I said, the podcast I've been doing for a few years, and it's just kind of the labor of love, slowly, piece by piece, you add one thing here, one thing there, and then it becomes this eventually. So yeah.
Yeah. 17 years in the restaurant, and then
it's a long one.
Listening.
That's it, man.
My goodness.
Yeah, sometimes you get bored and you're like, I got to do something different. So let's do a podcast. Big Joe Rogan fan. Big Joe Rogan fan. I know some people love him and some people hate him, but
yes.
Let's talk about you, man. What brought you into Taiwan, brother?
A couple things. Okay, so
tell me all about it.
So my buddy Paul, I went to Bronx Science, okay, and we used to play handball together. He's Taiwanese, so he was going to be here this week. So I figured, okay, why don't I try to figure out some way to overlap some time with my buddy. Okay. And then I met. I'm collaborating with another project called Bonsol, which is verified compute on Solana. So they have the founders here, small team here. So I'm working through their developer tutorial, helping flesh that out. Okay. So I'm doing some work, and then of course Hakka pork tacos. You told me about it.
Let's go.
I was so intrigued. I'm like, what would that taste like? What would be the sauce like? I don't know. So
you're gonna know.
So we're gonna try that out later. So
okay.
And so and I always like Taiwan. I think they have the best food quality, good balance, nature, everything. Took the bus for the first time coming here today. So quite exciting. Yeah.
Taiwan is a good spot. It's like I said, I came here like 20 years ago, and I thought I'll come here first, then I'll kind of maybe visit the other countries like Japan, Korea, and stuff. And I have visited them, and they are nice.
Yes.
But nothing's kind of like Taiwan. Taiwan's kind of that, for me, being Mexican, but born and raised in Canada, Taiwan is that perfect mix of like polish and like ghetto. I say that in a good way, because Mexico, for me, where we live, I love going back there when the cobblestone roads are potholes and street food, and everybody's happy. I love that. Yeah. And Canada's the opposite. It's also very nice, but it's very polished and very kind of like, like people know their neighbors and stuff in this small town, but it's kind of, well, hello there.
Yeah.
It's a little dry sometimes, but Taiwan is right in the middle, and it's perfect. I love that.
That's one of my things. Like, I'm from New York. It's a bit, American culture is a bit homogenized. It's very corporate, but here it's still all about the mom and pops here. So I just had like really good, just very local lunch yesterday with very local food, bitter melon and pork rib soup, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And actually, there's better street food. There's like more of a street food culture here than in Hong Kong.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So, probably has to do with real estate and so on.
Real estate's crazy here, but I guess Hong Kong must be worse. I mean, price-wise,
pretty bad.
Well,
okay. I think it goes into the food quality too. Okay, we're turning this into a food podcast. That's also fine.
That's okay. Yeah.
So my theory is the real estate is so expensive that food places in Hong Kong, they cut corners on food quality to try to make ends meet. Whereas here, it's not as bad. So, and actually the agriculture and farming here is much better. So you just have better food quality, better food ingredients.
I'll take that. Okay. So, were you able to check the audio on it's all good? Okay, beautiful.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome, man. I want to dive into a little bit of the beginning, a little bit of the origin story, right?
Yes.
Okay, so growing up in Queens.
Oh, my God.
Chinese guy, Chinese boy.
Oh, my God.
In Queens. Tell me about that.
First memory, it's the story about My Fair Lady.
Okay.
Okay, my dad, cheapskate, accountant.
I love it.
He says he's going to like his boss. He notices the boss has a bike. I needed a bike. I wanted a bike. I was like a young teen, maybe around 11, and I didn't have a bike. The bike, of course, is a girl's bike.
I love that.
Called My Fair Lady with streamers.
Okay.
And so it's like, hey, why don't I get you that bike? Because no Chinese, he doesn't waste anything. He's like, okay, you're not using that bike. Why don't you use it, son? So then I, of course, am the proud owner of My Fair Lady. That's where I learned resilience.
Okay.
Eddie.
Yes.
Riding around in that bike. We didn't paint it.
Okay.
We didn't even paint it. But I had a wonderful time biking around and playing Dungeons and Dragons and Queens and
love that.
And so that's one of the things. Yeah,
keep going, keep going. I love that. I just want to, yeah, of course.
So
I just want to make sure I get all of that.
That's one of the things that I sort of, one of the things in the back of my mind for my daughter, who's now 11, it's like I don't know that the type of childhood that you have in a busy city is a bit different.
Yeah.
Even though you think of New York as a city, it's really people think of Manhattan as the city.
Okay.
But in Queens, it's very much suburbs. You're far from places, and it's much more green, and you can bike around and so on. So.
Okay.
So that's my New York story. But I have a lot more New York stories if you want to go.
You can make it there. You can make it anywhere, they say.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. That's true.
That's true.
And my favorite show, of course, is Seinfeld.
Oh, God, we need to talk about Seinfeld, please.
The essence of New York, very Jewish. And
love it.
Okay, so when I first walk in, I'm wearing this red, white, and blue outfit, but it's very Chinese, right? So
sure.
I'm very Chinese American, but my viewpoint on Chinese culture is as if it is a guilo, like a white person's interest, because my Chinese isn't that good.
Gotcha.
And growing up at that time, we're not as enlightened about language as we were before. So I'm like, okay, I want to fit in, I want to integrate, I don't want to learn Chinese, I don't want to have a Chinese accent, so I'm just focused on English.
Yeah.
But then, of course, now growing older, that's a big regret, right?
I love the jacket.
Thank you. So like, and so yeah, so one of the reasons why I built this thing called the 8-Bit Oracle was it's sort of my exploration of a blending of East and West culture, and I view the I Ching from actually a Western lens, even though I'm Chinese.
Okay.
And so the way I introduce it is through a timeline of all of the sort of Western interest and influence.
Okay.
Of the I Ching and sort of that whole exploration when it wasn't as political. It was more like East-West was actually just curiosity about culture. Okay. And of course, it's got a retro computing feel because that sort of reminds me of the olden times. It's nostalgia, really. Of
course.
In the 80s when I didn't have a green terminal, I had an amber terminal almost.
Okay.
And then in college I used
the Oregon Trail, baby. Come on, you remember that one?
Yeah.
The Oregon Trail, right?
Yeah,
love that game.
And so I actually have a theory about gaming too, like just graphics in general. Like we always want to get the best graphics, but maybe graphics are better when they're simpler because then your brain fills in the blanks.
That's true.
And it's more memorable. And that's why sort of the aesthetic of my app is the way it looks. It's sort of nostalgia. I'm trying to make something immersive and memorable for me, and then hopefully other people will like it. And so. Yeah,
and it's kind of like Matrix-y, right?
It's Matrix-y because the Matrix explores reality or understanding reality, and when you get older, like me, that we start trying to explore, or we get more curious about that. Okay. Because when I was younger, I was very science, like science has figured everything out. But then when you get older, you figure, hey, there's these coincidences that actually don't make sense, and actually we don't really know everything. Maybe we're grasping at straws in many cases.
Yeah, I agree. Like the Mandela effect type thing, right? Yeah.
Mandela effect, and then Terence McKenna, he's like this ethnobotanist, very much into the I Ching. He had this theory called time wave zero, which he thought he could use one of the sequences of the I Ching to predict the future and the past, and then look at the past. So it's like there's a lot of weird theories that are very interesting and entertaining, but maybe there's something there too.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe you can describe for people I Ching, like what is the I Ching? Yeah.
Okay, so the I Ching, it started off many years ago. The I Ching is based on yin and yang. Okay. Based core concepts. So yin is characterized as being female and yang is the male energy.
Gotcha.
As men, we're attracted to women, so yang flows to yin. Okay. And the I Ching is basically a way to visualize yin-yang energy.
Okay.
in the form of hexagrams, but it's not like the Satan hexagram. Okay, it's like stacked lines.
Okay.
So it's a column. It's this column of yin yang lines that we call a hexagram because it's actually 6 lines.
Okay.
But at its core, it's actually 2 stacks of trigrams,
Okay.
2 groups of 3 yin yang lines that are stacked together. And the idea is that these 64 hexagrams can be used to explain reality or all possible situations.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
Okay. Yeah, it gets a little
deep.
woo-woo. It's
Okay,
deep.
okay,
It's deep.
okay.
And so originally it's so China many years, like in the genesis of like the Central Plain and 3,000 to 5,000 years ago in China, it was a very shamanistic culture.
Okay.
And then later on, philosophy and literature and the civil service exams, those got added on later. You know, Confucianism and Buddhism.
Gotcha.
But it started off very shamanistic and very animist. So, you know, worshiping of rivers and mountains and nature.
Okay.
And so the I Ching was a divination system, basically
Okay.
a system that was used to maybe tap into nature and try to do some form of prediction. And then over time, there became more literature, and Confucianism came about, and then philosophers started to use it more as a philosophical tool or as a literature tool. It was very core to the civil service examinations, actually.
Okay. Wow.
And so people had to study all 64 hexagrams, and actually that was why I was when I first tried to learn the I Ching many years ago, it was just too confusing for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a book of poems and stories. And if you just look at it, if you read an English translation or the book, you actually wouldn't know that it's rooted in yin yang.
Okay.
You would just see these poems that are just describing these mysterious stacked lines, and that they're 64. So like you're trying to read it like a dictionary, actually.
Okay.
Very difficult, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so the idea behind 8-Bit Oracle was
Yes. Please tell me
to
about 8-Bit Oracle.
allow people to learn the I Ching by just using it, by asking questions.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now it's making sense.
So I don't
Gotcha.
have to read this book from A to Z and then try to learn divination, which is the simple form is called coin toss. The more complex form is called Yarrow-Stock. But you don't need to learn that step and then do the divination and then study the meaning and then try to apply it to the question. Very like cumbersome.
Okay.
So the idea is it's more of a learning and education tool, and it's great to spread awareness. You know, my goal is not to put fortune tellers out of business. That's not
Okay.
the idea behind it is it's a way to have an accessible way to use the I Ching, and then if you do go to a fortune teller, you can be a bit more knowledgeable, and maybe
Okay.
you can apply your own interpretation, because the I Ching is actually a very personal thing. Like even though there's books and writings,
Yeah.
I think the way to get the best usage out of it is you sort of synthesize multiple learnings, multiple styles. Oh, yeah, we got something.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I
It's
gotta-
okay. We can
You wanna
we can
sub
yeah
it?
sub
Alright,
it.
jump
Keep
in.
going. We got a delivery, guys. This is an operating business.
Dan tagging in here.
Dan.
All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, and Dan, let me know if I'm going on too long. Okay,
Okay.
yeah. And so that's the idea is you can learn it by using it. Try to make it accessible, but also immersive, which actually scares some people off because of the green on black thing. And yeah, so that's sort of the idea.
All right,
8-Bit
subbing
Oracle.
out.
Okay, later on, Dan.
Tagging my tag partner.
Oh,
in there. I
yeah.
appreciate it, man. Thank you for that. I actually didn't know that much about that. That's pretty cool. I'd
Yeah.
like to learn more. But why don't you tell me how that kind of ties into with AI, right?
Oh.
Because AI is the big thing right now with crypto and it's just everywhere, right?
So yeah, I mean,
DeepSeek, ChatGPT, all this craziness. Tell me.
so the
how's that-
AIs
yeah.
AIs are great learning tools. They're
Okay.
like a very patient assistant.
Okay.
And so I use AI in the back for interpretations, and they can reason. So AIs work best when you give them context.
Okay.
Some people have characterized my app as sort of like a magic 8-ball, but it's sort of like
I was gonna say, sounds kind of like Go
yeah,
ahead.
it's sort of like it's a random process and things come out and then
Wow.
boom, right?
Okay.
But
People that don't know, that's what they would think.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'm not going to shit on that interpretation.
Okay.
But I will say that with AI and and in combination with thousands of years of writing and literature behind each hexagram,
Okay.
the AI can use that hexagram's information and stories and apply them to questions.
Okay.
So the reason why people like Carl Jung and Alan Watts and Terence
Love
McKenna,
Alan Watts, yeah.
they loved the I Ching was because it forced perspective.
Okay.
They like to use it as a way to reflect on situations.
Okay.
And so you might have a specific way of, and you can actually use it to analyze situations you've already been through. Like maybe I should have dealt with this person a different way. And you can actually explain that situation to the AI or to 8-bit Oracle.
Yeah.
And then hexagrams will be divined, and those hexagrams will have meaning. And then the AI will use its own reasoning,
Okay.
which they're very good now, in combination with sort of the context that's given by the hexagrams, and it combines those two to sort of explain or describe or help you analyze a situation in a different way, right?
Okay, okay.
So that's sort of the idea. But it's a very flexible tool. You know, you can use it for gambling if you want. You can use it for, there's prediction market integration. I integrate with
Okay.
Polymarket. So if people want to they don't want to spend the mental energy to ask a question. So I understand, like, people don't always want to reveal so much about themselves when using an app. So I make it easy for people to just use the I Ching in a way that's comfortable for them. And so it's not necessarily I have to pour my heart out to this thing. Why don't I start by asking simple questions about sports, my favorite team,
Okay.
things like that. So that's
Okay.
the idea.
And then, do you think you can create like an immersive kind of a environment, immersive experience with this? I know it's
Yeah.
recently you started to kind of really push on this project, right? So tell me about that.
It ties into the whole. There was like something on Twitter that talked about, hey, all these AI apps, they're just GPT wrappers, right? Mm-hmm. And then, outside looking in, you might think, oh, a GPT wrapper in concept, you're just wrapping an API and you're giving a chat interface and you're giving it a skin. There's not much there. But as I was building the app, it's actually quite difficult to build an immersive experience. So to me, my sort of differentiation is trying to build something that can let you escape a little bit.
Okay.
And the style that I built is based on the style that I like, right?
Okay,
So
sure.
it started off as just my exploration and what I like, and that's why it's very Matrix themed, and it uses the digital rain concept and so on.
When did you decide to be like, kind of almost starts like something for yourself, like a hobby almost, to like the step where like, I'm going to actually create something. I think I've got something here. I'm going to put it out in the world. When did that decision come?
I don't know if there's a switch, actually.
Okay.
So, as a solo founder, you're always, there's always uncertainty.
Sure.
And, so people ask, hey, are you doing this full time?
Yeah.
And I get a little bit, I'm like, well, I'm not making any money. Well, this is true. Maybe I need to get a job. Should I work at McDonald's? Like, what?
Tacos.
And so,
Yeah.
Are you guys hiring?
Yeah.
And so so I don't know. I'm going to do my best. So that's my perspective. My perspective is, as an engineer, I want to complete something. So I've always worked for other people. So marketing and distribution is sort of, to me, as a builder, that's always the toughest part.
Gotcha.
Right? And actually, I think that's the toughest part in general.
Any business,
for
man.
any business. It's like, because we you're running the restaurant, so you must
Huge marketing. Huge.
but you like food and you like you like cooking, and that's what you enjoy. But to make it a sustainable business, actually, that's sort of table stakes, right? Like you need to do all the other stuff.
Very small percentage of the whole business. Yeah.
And so I need to prove to myself. So I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I'm going to put my best foot forward. I'm going to try to build something that I hope people will like. And now it's sort of, okay, how do I go about marketing? And I've just done word of mouth, but now I've been meeting people like yourself and Full Value Dan, and I've been very, very fortunate to just meet like honest KOLs. Actually, I think.
Yeah.
So. Exactly. So I'm gonna but we're gonna make it together, okay? So
Yeah.
so we're poor, but I'm gonna do my best. I don't know if I can do it, but we're gonna try, okay? And so that's sort of my perspective. I'm gonna put my best foot forward and try to figure out the marketing and distribution part, which I have not yet.
Okay.
But you know, it's a process. Yeah.
I think marketing for any business is it's like the lifeblood, right?
Yeah.
There's that old.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, here we
Brought
go.
to you by Eddie's Cantina. The Reaper sauce. If you guys need some, we actually just relaunched our online ordering system, and we'll be able to ship this all over Taiwan. So this is good if you like spicy hot sauce.
And the glass container seems quite sturdy, quite high quality. You got a metal cap here with some kind of
it's sealed.
design.
It's all sealed, baby. Yeah, we're ready to go. Yeah. Outside Taiwan, if you can, we'll work it out. Just send me a PM, put a comment down below, and we'll figure it out for sure.
Yeah. I'm curious to try it out. I have high hopes with the combination Hakka pork.
This one is
taco and
actually
this.
made with Carolina Reaper, so this one's quite hot.
Okay, I don't know if I
So
can
we have
handle
a couple
that.
levels.
Yeah,
This
that
is a
might be a
couple
little
levels,
too
yeah.
much for me.
Yes. Shoot, I lost my train of thought.
Well, I got lots of stuff
No, that's cool.
to talk about. New York some more.
Yeah.
I gave you a nice photo with my granddad with the World Trade Center.
Let's look at the pictures, actually. Let's pop
Yeah.
up number one. Hit number one if you can, Dan. Bam. There you go.
Boom.
Tell me about that.
So this is really funny,
Okay.
and I get an inkling of how marketing works just from this
Marketing,
photo.
that's what we're talking about. Yes.
So you see this photo, I'm standing there, there's a big Solana thing on the back of my head, and then people say, oh, you're with Solana.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, no, they just happened to sponsor Taipei Blockchain Week, and because of that, there are
Smart.
banners all over the place.
Yep.
And there was one of the organizers was great enough just to take a photo, and I happened to be standing there just because the podium, you'll see that image on the left is where my computer was. So my presentation was a little unusual in that I was doing a demo, so I had to have control of the computer.
Okay.
Most people just do a clicker and they go through
Yeah.
slides, and it's all controlled in the back.
Gotcha.
And so
But then the people that are doing the clicking for you screw it up, right? Yeah,
exactly.
That's why. Yeah.
So
I know.
So I had to go through all that. Like, okay,
Yeah.
send us your slides. I'm like, hey, wait, what's happening here? Okay, and then you're gonna have to like click. You're gonna give this clicker. So many points of failure because then you have your thing that they give you, and then the
Okay.
thing that they give you, and they're both communicating wirelessly. So there's a lot of production that goes into this stuff. Needless to
Tell
say.
me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so Taipei Blockchain Week, Chris, part of one of the organizers, he loved my project, and this was in like October, November. I had
Beautiful.
I didn't think about actually presenting it anywhere. I was just focused on building, right, to that whole building and marketing and distribution. But then Chris saw me build it from like a very static site to an actual live app, and he just loved it. And he's like, okay, you're gonna speak, and I'm like, oh, okay, really? So basically, because of that, I was able to get on the builder's main stage, and then we had a great demonstration of something called group divination, which was a feature I built.
Okay.
Which is more like how do you interact? Because like the way we interact with AIs is a very solitary experience. So I wanted to build something that was more of a social group experience. So people in the audience scanned a QR code. They would go into a room. And the question that we were asking about was, are we in a simulation? Because
Yeah, of course.
yeah, because my presentation was actually very
go.
non-technical. It was a non-technical presentation, just focused on East-West associations and the Matrix and cyberpunk and tech noir themes.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. So
What's the answer? Are we now? You got to answer it, man. Are we in the
so
simulation?
this is one of the things that
Yeah.
that one of the things that when you're interpreting groups or sets of hexagrams together, one of the things I prompt the AI to do is try to weave a narration or a story.
Okay.
And because you're getting a group of different hexagrams and it's trying to weave a story, usually the story involves some kind of evolution or some kind of change in understanding of our reality to something else. So the answer is it's vague. It's trying to analyze the hexagrams that we're given, trying to form chains of associations and meanings, and it's trying to find like common trigrams or elemental ideas that are common, and it does some kind of temporal analysis. So it's a bit involved, but I think that it sort of gets at the heart at these divination or fortune telling systems, which is, do they work? How
Okay.
do they work? If multiple people ask the same question,
Okay.
wouldn't I always get different answers? And doesn't that mean it doesn't work, right? And so
Okay.
I try to address that through sort of a social format where we're just asking questions, having AI try to be creative in the interpretations, and
Okay.
it's a journey. Like, there's no conclusion. We're just exploring, and so that's sort of what that presentation was about. It was a cultural presentation with a group divination.
I think,
demo,
and
yeah.
life is a journey, right?
Yeah.
But when you start a business and stuff, it's also a journey. This podcast has been a journey.
Oh, yeah.
And you got everything all set up, and you think you've got everything nailed. And last week, we're about to do a little pop-up interview, and all my gear, nothing works. After 290 something episodes, nothing is
Oh, my
working.
goodness.
So this Monday, I came in and I kind of took everything apart, and it was a simple problem, sorry, but yeah, it's crazy. It's always going to be that way. There's always going to
That's
be
life,
something to
though.
learn.
That's life. And that's when you learn, you go
Yeah.
through that
Yeah.
hardship, and if nothing else, it's just a memorable moment, Yeah. And so,
Yes,
that was
I love
Taipei
it.
Blockchain Week. It was a
Beautiful.
very good experience.
Okay.
And then I get a little bit of an idea, like, so sponsorship. I don't know anything
Okay.
about
Sure.
how these shows work. So
Yeah.
I was originally on a better speaking slot, and then I had to get swapped out because one of the paying sponsors
Understandable.
complained
Yeah, yeah,
about.
yeah.
So I was like the last session on a Friday.
Gotcha.
So that's where I ended up going to. But I had a better speaking slot originally. But so that sort of ties into like understanding more of the convention or the show side. Like a lot of time people pay to speak at these events. That's how
Okay.
these events are sustainable.
Okay. That I didn't know that.
See, and so
Yeah.
so this journey is like a great journey. Like I learn
Yeah.
all these things because I'm trying to do something from the beginning of the building step, which is what I'm very comfortable with.
Okay.
To the distribution and marketing.
I
side,
think
yeah.
that's one of the big parts of kind of you got to get out of the comfort zone a little bit, right? And
Yeah.
I know it's super cliche, but definitely before I came to Taiwan, I was a very, very, still very super introverted, right? Didn't really talk. Had my group of friends. I was a bit of like a chameleon, so I could kind of blend anywhere, but I didn't really go out of my way to talk to anybody. And then when I came here, I was by myself, and a couple months.
How many years ago was this?
This is about 20 years ago.
Oh my God.
Long time, man.
Yeah.
And I
So
thought
many
I was by
changes.
myself, and I thought, after a couple months of just going to work and coming home, I'm like, this is gonna suck. I need
Yeah.
to go out, and there's beautiful women everywhere,
The best.
right? And
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And
That's your yang energy coming.
right?
Yang,
Yeah. There you go. And at this time, there were like foreigner expat here. Not that many though. Not that many.
Yeah.
So everywhere you'd go, you'd be like almost like a movie star, right?
I love that.
People are like
Well, you're tall too.
throwing like
And
everybody's
quite-
throwing themselves.
And I can
at
imagine
you.
20 years ago, quite
20
handsome.
years ago, yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, I'm still working on it, but it's tough. Yeah, no. But it was good. And then everywhere you'd go, people would be like, "Hey, come and work at my school. I'll pay you whatever you want. Teach my daughter."
You're
blah,
like a
blah,
draw.
blah. So I can't even tell you a story about that. When I moved to Danshui, this other area, I was out there to coach soccer. Just a quick story, and I was on the MRT and I was going by this school. I saw this school. I wrote the number down. I called them and I said, "Yeah, I'm moving to the area. I don't know if you guys need an English teacher." And they're like, "Well, we do, but our pay is $500 an hour, $450 or something." And I'm like, "Oh, I currently make like $7. So, is there any wiggle room?" And they said, "Just come in tomorrow, and we'll
Try
have an
it out."
interview."
Yeah.
So I dressed up and I had my resume printed out, and then I walked in, and then they just kind of were like, "Okay, 700, come tomorrow 8:30."
I love that.
And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I went.
That's so cool.
But the extended version of the story was, anytime this happened so many times, anytime a rich Taiwanese guy'd come in, he'd walk in, push the doors open, and he'd look at them and be like, basically, "Where's the white guy?" Right? And I'm Mexican, but
That's
in
all right.
Taiwan, I'm white, right?
That's okay.
Basically. So they'll be like, "Where's the foreigner?" And they'd be like, "Oh, Ed, can you come down to the office, please?" And I come down, and I'd see this like guy who's got like his entourage, and he's like black Mercedes Benz, and he's just like,
I love
and he
that.
looks at me, and I'm like, "How's it going, man? Good?"
That American
And
accent.
he's just like, then he looks at the lady, pulls out this wad of cash, and he's just like, pays the tuition
Going
and
to
cash
school
on
here.
the spot. Boom.
Done.
Kid's coming here, okay, and then just doesn't talk to me at all. Just pays the cash and then he leaves. And I'm like, okay, go
Let's
back to work.
Go back.
All right. I thought, damn, I should ask for more.
I love that.
Yeah, that's it. That's how it was, man. I don't know if it's still like that. I doubt it, but at that time it was crazy. Yeah.
Awesome story.
Crazy
awesome
stuff.
story.
I got those for days. But how does this? I want to see how this all ties in with. We obviously met you in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Consensus. How does this tie in with crypto? Like we were talking. One
So-
more quickly. Just one more thing. Let me
Yeah.
get in here. We were talking about the simulation thing.
Yeah.
And everybody's out grinding, working their asses off, and then you go to a crypto conference, and it looks like everybody's making money. It looks like there's money being
Smoke
thrown
and mirrors,
around,
man.
thrown around everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it a simulation? Did these guys hack the system? What's going on here?
Well, I think there
Right?
are.
So
but-
you tell me, how does crypto fit into this?
So crypto is sort of a funny industry. I'll give a sort of my general overview.
Okay.
Like, because, solo founder, you don't know how to raise. You don't know if you want to raise. And you've heard about KOLs, and
Yeah.
you have sort of a funny feeling about them outside
Sure.
looking in.
Yeah.
You're not usually going to be lucky enough to meet, or you don't, those are the guys like you, you're not the one, they're not the ones you see.
Yeah,
Okay?
for sure.
Because you only see the big ones.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And so crypto, to me, it's still it's a very speculative industry. And so the perspective for my app was I actually delayed any kind of crypto integration just
Okay.
because my focus was on user experience, and the crypto user experience is usually shitty, right?
Yeah. Look at some of
Wallets
those
and everything.
sandboxes, video games, and the wallets.
empty
and all
world.
That. Yeah.
And actually, there's a lot of infrastructure, but there are no users. This is sort of like the typical
Yeah.
thing that you observe in crypto.
I see that everywhere.
And then you're like, for metaverse, especially in the last cycle, you look at these metaverse projects,
Yeah.
and I'm like, and you're like, am I hallucinating?
Am
or
I nuts here?
Am
Yeah.
I in a simulation? People are enjoying this. What is going on?
That's how I felt. I was like,
And
what's going on?
so I get it. Like for me, crypto is a great, and especially for a B2C app.
Okay.
My focus is not on actually leveraging a lot of infrastructure, because generally, if you do things in a decentralized manner, there's more overhead and things are slower, and sort
Okay.
of the user experience with wallets is sort of shit. So for me, I view Web3 or crypto as more like a channel. Like they're a channel of really like tech savvy, dedicated users.
Okay.
And so when I build, like if I token gate a feature, or if I build an NFT for a feature, it's a way to tap into sort of that hardcore community.
Okay.
And if I were to actually build a sustainable business, I would think crypto would be a small portion of that, but they're
Okay.
like my beta testers. They're going to know how to use the app because they're tech savvy. They know how to deal with wallets. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
So if you know how
yeah.
to deal with wallet, you're already like up there.
You're in like the top 5% crypto
Yeah,
people.
Exactly. And so sort of like it's also a controlled space because there's less people in Web3 than Web2.
Okay.
And so I built some token gating features, and I've integrated with a community called Daobi, who are already using the I Ching in their Discord. So I
Gotcha.
built some special features for them, and they were, they are sort of dedicated users. There's a small dedicated set of users from that community. Hello, Daobi guys, on Polygon, but maybe moving to Base or something. And so that's my view of crypto for B2C. It's a channel. And I think any normal B2C app would not focus on Web3 just because you're automatically shutting off the majority of people who would never use a wallet, right? Like
Okay.
they would never ever touch a wallet. It's
Yeah.
too confusing and complicated. But there is a strategy to sort of grow an app and have a dedicated user base that's tech savvy that
Okay.
is Web3, and then use them, and then not use them, but have them be as part of your early community so they can help market.
Like the beta tester, the beta group.
Yeah,
kind
and
of.
you can have
Okay.
you can have a token, and then if
Okay.
the early token holders get rich, then they sort of can help market just organically because they love the community, they love the app, and they just love that they're rich now. So that's sort of
Yeah.
like one of the strategies.
Okay.
So that's sort of my view of crypto. I added wallet integration very late just because it wasn't core to the functionality of the app.
Okay.
And my Polymarket integration, which is it's like a Web3 prediction market,
Uh-huh.
I'm using them in a very Web2 way. They just have an API.
Okay.
It's just they just have a way for me to grab events from them through some function called through an API. And it happens to be a crypto project, but I'm really using them as a way as for content.
Okay.
It's a way for people to click on an event and ask a question really quickly.
Okay.
Instead of having to type out something or pour their heart out.
I understand. Okay. Yeah, that's cool because I mean the blockchain week I went to was great, and we were walking through there, and it's just like it was like the movies, people on bean bags and laptops and stuff, and
Yeah, a little
it's
surreal.
crazy. And I'm just like, all right. Meanwhile, I'm like literally grinding corn for tortillas.
I love that
it's
photo
like,
you
that's
sent to
crazy.
me. That's
This
crazy.
is crazy.
Flour tortilla. Okay,
We
what
got
do you
both.
sell more?
We got
What do you
both.
sell more, flour or corn?
Flour sells more for sure.
Yeah, that's
we're
my
in
pre-
Asia, right?
that's
for
my
sure.
preference,
Flour for sure.
Okay, but in Mexico,
Mexico, all corn by far.
interesting.
Because Mexico is a corn country, right? It's like
Did flour
it's-
come later?
I think flour is more in the north. I think it's
Ah.
later, and it's more in the north, and I think it's more expensive.
Yeah.
So Mexico was like grinding the corn sort of deal. Yeah.
I used to live in the Bay Area, so yeah. And then I went to school in
Mexican
San
food.
Diego. So
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So
Oh, I
I'm
gotta-
down with the Birdos, Albertos, or Robertos. I'm down with the
Okay,
Mexican stuff.
okay.
Actually, Hong Kong, not like I told you.
You told me, yeah.
Not
Apparently,
so-so.
there's El Gordo or something that was supposed to be quite bad. Someone was saying. Andy Leon's,
Andy Land.
his
Yeah, I
son
mean,
said it
it's
was like
I would say
it's lacking.
There's a market opportunity, but real estate. You gotta figure out that.
Solana. If
Okay.
you're watching this,
Yeah.
let's go. I think you can help us.
Oh,
help us with
yeah.
that a little
Solana
bit, yeah.
Foundation.
Or Sui's looking
anyone?
good. Sui's
Yeah.
looking good, right?
Yeah.
Some Sui tacos out there in Hong Kong. Let's go. In partnership with I Ching, right?
The other
with all
thing
the
about
stuff.
the lunch rush in Hong Kong,
must be-
it's a big scrum. It's like
Okay.
really hard to find a seat. So
Okay.
you can always sell food during lunch
Okay.
in like any kind of Hong Kong
Anywhere.
location. No
Okay.
problem at all.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. We were talking about the apps and stuff, and what about the Life Story? Life Story
Yes.
app.
The life story, that was sort of my original.
Okay.
Well, that ties into a lot of things. So,
Yeah.
so dad passes away 2 years ago.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then I'm going through photo albums of him and trying to get a little bit of a better feel of what he was like before he had kids.
Okay, that's
So this is how you know, we know, because maybe you get more responsibilities and a little bit of you changes because you're not really thinking about yourself
not just
anymore.
a little, man. Very big difference. Yeah.
But you as a person change.
Usually, yeah,
But
yeah.
your raw form, I believe, is when you're younger, adolescent.
Okay.
Before you have all these responsibilities, you're just thinking about, hey, what do I like to do? What do I like to read? What are my friends like? How do I interact with people? And so as I was going through these albums with young photos of my dad, I became curious about what his life was like. And of course, my mom too. And so what were they like before they had kids? What were they like as individuals before they got married? And so on and so forth. And so then I had this idea. It was a much more grand idea of building something like a photo album on steroids. Yeah.
Were you able to get find info about dad when he was younger? Kind of like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I basically called
That's awesome.
all of his old coworkers.
Wow.
And then I tried to, you had to notify people of the funeral. So
Yeah. Okay. Understand.
So, and then they would also volunteer stories. And
Gotcha.
yeah, it was a very cathartic experience. And then I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it be great if there's an app that could sort of easily record all of that, and then maybe synthesize something from photos just from timestamps. So
Okay.
imagine the photo album experience you have today, right?
Yes.
It's sort of a mess. And this is pre-digital photos. So
Okay,
with
yeah,
digital
yeah.
photos, of course, it's easier, but it's still a mess. And maybe Google does it on purpose. I have no idea why they haven't
It's
improved
still a
it.
mess, man. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
your phone gets full, you drag them into a hard drive. It's just a disaster. Nothing's labeled. It'll
Yeah.
just say, image _007, blah blah, and nothing is. No one's gonna go through labeling all their pictures.
No.
I don't think. I mean,
There
maybe
is some
somebody does, but-
geolocation going on. Like I
Okay.
can search for Taipei photos, but there's no, and they do have, so they have information about people because they have facial recognition, but it's not well integrated. Like
Yeah.
it's not like timelines. It's not like a story, which is really what you want. You want to
Story,
have a
yeah.
story
Yeah.
from your photos, and that was Life Story. But then when I started building it, I got a designer because that's what outside looking, and you don't know what to do. You say,
Yeah.
okay, I need to get a designer.
Yeah.
So I got a designer out of Hanoi, and then they tell me, well, the designer actually doesn't do any HTML. They just do designs.
Yeah, the designer doesn't actually know what they're doing. They just kind of
They come up with images. They come up with Figma,
Yeah.
which then has to get translated. And then I found out that I was most productive with that designer when I was using Midjourney to do UI mockups.
Gotcha.
So it was
Okay.
AI again. So I was like,
Gotcha.
well, if he's actually, what I want is a designer that's using AI.
Yeah, that's the best.
But
Yeah.
if I can't find that, then I might as well do it because I'm not getting a lot of value. And then when I started doing that, I was like, well, actually, this project has a lot of requirements for front-end design and custom components, and I just wasn't there yet.
Understand.
And the AI tooling was not there yet. So now, maybe one possibility is I get 8-bit Oracle on sort of a self-sustaining track, or at least in a track where it's monetized. Maybe it's not making money, but at least it's monetized.
Something's coming in.
And
Nice.
and it's on, like, there's like marketing and advertising rails that I can just say, okay, I'll spend some money and I have some ads to go, and we'll just take sort of that part of the experiment has sort of concluded, but it's
Okay.
on its rails and I can still maintain it, but it's the bulk of the heavy lifting is done. Right.
Okay.
And then I can start exploring other things. Maybe I can revisit Life Story because I think there is a need for that. It's just
Agree. Yeah.
it's more work. It's more work for sure.
I have a lot of,
Yeah.
like hard drives, not necessarily full, but of pictures that
Yes.
I want and that but I never actually go in and look at them.
Yeah.
Because, for example, you take a picture of and you're in the restaurant, you take like 5 because you want to have one that's at least good. And then all 5 go to the hard drive.
This is the digital age. Yeah, you get more.
It's
you get
crazy.
more.
It's crazy. The old days where you would take a picture and you'd have to get them developed and you'd wait to see if they turned out.
Yeah.
Those were cool, man.
Well,
Those
and
were
there's
pretty
also
cool, yeah.
like mental. There is like a mental state to looking at old photos that
Yeah.
there's a bit of a hurdle there. So I've observed like relatives, they don't necessarily want to go through old photos.
Yeah. Yep.
Because for whatever
Makes
reason,
them feel old.
Yeah,
it makes them feel.
Then I have to get into a different state of reminiscing, and maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe
Yeah.
I just want to go on with my day. And so there's a lot of ways to improve that experience for sure. Yeah.
It's also tough. Like for me, like my daughter's 13, but with like Facebook and stuff like that, once in a while it'll be like 10 years ago when she was 3, and you're carrying her around. Then you're like, okay, I get it. And I'm like in the middle of a dinner rush, and I just kind of happen to check, and I'm like, I can't open that right now because I
Yeah.
got to make food. So I get it, man,
Yeah.
for sure. The memification of everything. What's your thought process on that? We went to the Meme Fest.
Yeah, great festival.
Great festival. Actually had a good
Met
time.
Andy there.
Met Andy. Was on the panel with Dan.
Yes.
Me, Dan, Jemmy, right?
Took some
Yeah.
photos of you guys.
That was fun. People were like, "What are you doing up there, man?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
You're the
Have fun,
Web
have
2
fun.
guy.
I'm the Web
which
2
very
guy.
Grounding people in reality.
yeah,
No, I think memes are, so that's one of Andy's points is like memes are a great entryway for normal people to get
Okay.
into crypto. And it's just through entertainment and ideas.
okay,
They're very accessible, and that's why plushies are very popular and sort of these anime PFP. So I think I agree. I think memes are they're very durable. They actually transcend Web 3 actually.
okay."
Because if you're thinking about
Because it's
like,
already on Web 2. It's everywhere. People share
you
them
had internet
everywhere, right?
memes. You had these crazy ass photos and just basically ideas. Religions are a form of a meme, right?
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
and so I think maybe we've just given the name memification of everything, but maybe it's always been there.
Okay.
Like we just didn't have a name.
Didn't have a
for it.
name for it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And so, I do need to use memes as part of my marketing. It's a little challenging just because of the tech noir aesthetic. My tech noir aesthetic is a bit mature, and that's one of my challenges is trying to find projects to collaborate with.
Gotcha.
Which I'm interested in culture and occult projects, because most
No,
projects
no Neo plushies coming out here. Yeah, maybe.
Let's see
one.
let's see how
He's the
successful
one.
I am with monetization. I might have to go that
Okay,
route,
the
but
Neo plushie.
yeah,
Okay.
Neo Digital Rain something.
He is the one.
The
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's the idea is trying to find projects that we can meme together with and generate great content and marketing with, and just have good technical collaborations too.
Okay.
Big challenge for my kind of project.
Understand.
But I'm collaborating with a project called Alpha Kek, which was Full Value Dan
That's
introduced
right.
me
Yeah.
to them.
Vinny and big Russian dude, right?
Vladimir, Vinny and Vladimir, good guys.
Yeah.
So experimenting with them, and hopefully we can get something more custom, because the out of the box one is a bit hard. Because my aesthetic is like green on black with amber highlights, but it's like a blend of Wong Kar-wai and Tech Noir, like Blade Runner, but a little bit more, even more Asian and a little bit more retro.
I like it.
Tech
I
Noir.
love it. I love it. I'm also a Seinfeld guy. I'm also a Matrix guy.
Yeah, so you're my. So
I'm
people.
the target market.
I always ask like these marketers. This is the other thing. They go, "What's your target market?" And I'm like,
me. You're like,
well,
I'm
now I
marketing
can
to
now
myself.
I can say you, but but I also think like I don't know if I want to have a target market, because I feel like the I Ching is for everyone. I feel like because it's just a way to think about situations.
Sure.
And maybe my theming is attractive to certain people.
Okay.
But in general, I'd rather let the market decide. Actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to say, hey, I want to. And my theory on that whole marketing thing, I've been thinking about this. I think it's tied to how marketing was done in terms of magazines and print and commercials, where those shows and those print mediums, they had specific targets that they were already entrenched in, and so therefore you should buy advertising on them. But now it's platforms. So platforms actually control everything. So I don't need to think about that. They will figure out actually where the ad should go.
YouTube will find it with the algorithm or something. Yep.
Yeah. And so I think the thinking has a bit changed. It should have, it's evolved since that sort of classic kind of thinking. So I don't think you need to.
Okay.
And I think it's not productive to think in those terms.
Okay.
Actually. Yeah.
Okay. YouTube, actually, I've been trying to learn how to get better at this for years, and there are people with like YouTube channels of like 200 subscribers, and they're making bank because it's really, really, well done, and it's really kind of targeted. So yeah, but they didn't actually do the targeting. They just kind of put their really sort of niche stuff.
What they liked.
Yeah, and then YouTube kind of finds that.
That's my dream. If I can just
that's
focus
the dream, right?
on we want to focus on what we like, and then organically have an audience that likes you, and not have to engage with KOLs that not you guys, but
I didn't even know what KOL was a week ago, man.
That's how Web 2 you are, huh?
That's so Web 2, man. So quick story. But it's not just me. In the restaurant, I asked all of my customers, what is KOL?
We're in our own bubble.
Nobody knows what a KOL is. 90% of them didn't even know what Web 3, Web 2 was.
Yes.
And they're like, well, what's Web 1? And I'm like, I think it's AOL. I don't know. Right? I don't know.
Dial-up modem, BBS.
Dial-up, yeah. Remember those dial-up games where you'd have to like plug your phone line in and someone picks up middle of the game and your game cuts out?
That's one of my challenges is actually, I'm on Twitter. Twitter is its own bubble.
Oh, yeah.
So Twitter, like, you would think like, and I'm doing a lot of AI stuff, building stuff. So you would think everyone around you is building an app using AI in a week and making $1 million a week.
Yeah.
You would think that. But then you go out into the real world, people are just starting to get using like GPTs and ChatGPT. A lot of people aren't sophisticated, or they're just exploring. And they're definitely not building anything, although you would think that.
Yeah.
My feed is full
I don't
of
know
that.
anybody that's building except for you. Yeah.
And so one of my challenges is like I need to control my FOMO or my anxiety around that. Like I see all these people building things super quick, making a ton of money, but then I have to ground myself more in like Chinese thinking or philosophy of where I need to sort of focus on what I'm building and taking things step by step. Don't skip any steps.
Okay, yeah.
Take things step by step and just try to enjoy the journey and reduce anxiety. And
It's tough because you see, I'll see other YouTubers with like giant channels, and then I'm like, oh man,
how should I do my
speak
thumbnail?
more Chinese? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I just really niche down on one topic? But I started this because I really enjoy the chat.
That's what you want.
In the restaurant, I meet like there's students doing projects. I meet CEOs of huge companies. I meet like all these people doing all this really cool stuff. and we have these really great conversations. And I thought I would love to share that.
You're recording.
That's really it.
That's
Yeah.
posterity,
That's
and
why it
then
started.
whatever comes. I think that's the
Yeah.
that's a Taoist.
I'm like,
philosophy.
let's just go.
It's very Taoist. It's like I will go with the way. I will. Alan Watts had something. He said
Love that
something
guy.
about the water course way, which is
Okay.
basically imagine water going through a stream with rocks.
Okay.
It naturally goes through and avoids the rocks. It's not trying to. It naturally goes through. And so, that's sort of like, I think that's the good mentality to have. Yeah.
I also think that because of this and because I do everything live, and today we're lucky we've got Dan to do the buttons, right? But usually I'm kind of like talking, hitting buttons, and my left foot is like changing angles and stuff. And of course, yeah, that's something you have to get used to. But because of doing all this stuff, like I was able to go to Hong Kong, with Dan and do that stuff. I was able to do Taipei Blockchain Week. I was able to go and do the English commentary for boxing at Taipei Arena downtown. There's a lot of cool stuff that's come from this, and some cool friendships as well. Whereas usually I'm like that the introverted person, and the restaurant and this industry and that hustle that you have to have has really pulled me out of that shell. Whereas if I stayed in my hometown in Canada, I probably would just got a job, whatever, and just
For sure.
probably have 4 or 5 kids, who knows, and just kind of be like, this is
Maybe
this
that's a
is
good
life.
thing,
It's a
though.
good thing. I enjoy. That would be cool too. But just what happened out here is just you try something different, and sometimes it works.
But
Sometimes it doesn't.
I felt very fortunate. Like the
Yeah.
Star Ferry, I saw Dan. Then I saw you, a very
Okay.
tall figure, walking down. Like, who's this guy? But then
the hell is this guy?
You told me. I learned more about how this was sort of like one of the first times you've been away, just as a guy hanging out.
Yeah,
buddies.
yeah.
You two, buddy. It's like a buddy movie, and just hanging out. Like I thought that was great. Yeah.
It was the first time in like 15 years that I've traveled without the wife or the daughter.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was a bit nervous at the beginning, which is weird because when I travel, I'm like dad mode, carrying everybody's stuff. I got the money and the passport strapped to my chest, and I'm just like, load it up, let's go. And for me, I was just like, Dan got me my own room, and I'm like, I got my own room.
It was too comfortable.
I was like,
you were
what's
thinking about
happening
too
here?
little. You were thinking about too little.
This
Dan
is
was
crazy.
taking care of everything.
Dan took care of everything, and I
Oh
was
my
just
God.
like, this is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was pampered out there.
I love
Even
that.
though we did, I don't know how many, 20, 30 interviews, but that for me, that was fun. Do that all day.
I think I was glad to just experience a little of the
appreciate it, man.
the draft of that. Yeah,
it's not
I
something
felt-
that happens often, and
Yeah.
but hopefully it's going to keep happening, right? We're going to keep doing some of this stuff.
Yeah. Dubai is next for Dan.
Hopefully, yeah.
I
That's
don't
the
know if I'm
plan.
gonna schlep out there, but
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully Dubai. I gotta ask my wife, but
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
no,
Sponsors,
it's good. Sponsors, yes.
Dan, what kind of sponsors are we looking for Dubai? Did you
Anyone that wants to buy $10,000 hot sauce.
$10,000 hot sauce?
We can make hot sauce NFTs for you as well.
hot
There
sauce
you go.
NFTs.
There you go. Yeah.
$10,000 each.
$10,000 each, commemorative, numbered, signed.
Yes, that's right. We'll sign them.
Unique.
10,000. 10,000 for 10,000.
That's right. Limited. Yes. That's it, man. Yeah. What about like online compared to like, everybody has like an online identity.
Oh, that was one of my struggles.
And like a real life identity. Kind of, for example, some people go on stage, even when I do this podcast.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll come in and people are just like, "Ugh," and then I think, oh my God, this is gonna be a tough one. But then they get on here and they're like, hey, how's it going,
change.
everybody? And you're just like, it's like this. Comedians have that a
Personas.
lot.
They're
right?
conserving energy until they
Yeah.
need to
So
do stuff.
what's your opinion on that?
I think it's a struggle for me. I mean, maybe we're similar. I think Dan also, right? Like
same,
we're all
yeah.
we're all builders. We like to. We're creators.
Dubai, baby. Yes.
We're grinders and creators,
Yeah.
and it's a little unnatural for us to show our face. Maybe it's natural for you now, but
Now.
maybe not when you started off.
When I
right?
started, no.
And for me, I'm still uncomfortable showing my face.
Gotcha.
Like my app is very faceless.
Okay.
I feel like faces. People like to see faces, but it's also
Yeah.
world breaking, and it can break an immersive experience, which is why my app intentionally hides faces.
Gotcha.
And I feel that for me, it's something that maybe I need to get used to as part of marketing and trying to grab attention for an app because everyone's building in public and
Okay.
sort of the building experience is part of the marketing and the content for the app. Maybe it's like, maybe for restaurants, it's like behind the scenes, right? Like,
Yeah.
I got to make tortillas. Here's how I grind the corn,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. I mean, people are interested to that.
Yeah.
It's just like, but it's just, there's a bit of a sacrifice in terms of anonymity, right? Like,
Yeah.
we have our private lives. We want to preserve that.
Yeah.
And so it's a challenge. For
It's
sure.
hard. It's
Yeah,
I think it's
difficult,
hard
yeah.
to keep things private. You know, it's especially if you want to, you know, do YouTube or if you want to do the restaurant. Like with this restaurant,
Yeah, for sure.
a lot of people, oh my God, so many people will come in here and say, "Oh, I know Eddie. I met Eddie, the boss, or whatever." Right? And it's not like it's a fame thing, but it's like a
You're notable.
you meet
You're
somebody
notable
somewhere,
now.
and then people will remember you, and times that by 17 years. You can't remember everybody. It's impossible. So sometimes people will come in, they're like, "Oh, I know 老板, oh, 认识老板, oh, 我们是好朋友, we're good friends," right? And then so for me, I will always come out and I will try to talk to everybody.
I love that.
Most people want to talk. Sometimes they don't, which is okay.
Yeah.
But it's hard because sometimes people they'll see you and be like, "Hey, you know, we did this project 2 years ago. This Heineken, like I did this Heineken beer commercial like 15 years ago, and I met a guy there, and we're still kind of in touch."
They're
and it's
expecting
just
you to know
I'm like,
everyone,
"Hey,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Yeah."
So here's the thing,
It's
like
crazy.
I
It's
I
crazy,
almost
yeah.
feel like your interactions and meeting people in real life is okay.
Yeah.
Because the reach is limited.
Okay.
But when you go online, it's a bit different. The
Gotcha.
considerations are different. So for me, it's a bit more high stakes in a way.
Understand? Sure.
And so that's sort of where I have to figure that out. Like, but yeah, understand your point around that. Yeah.
Next step.
Are we talking about Seinfeld, but handball? What are we doing?
Neo plushie with the kung
Neo
fu
plushie.
with
Woo.
this with the red,
Yeah,
white,
one
and
of
blue
these.
kung fu outfit on.
Okay.
And he says, "I know kung fu."
I know kung fu. I
Yeah,
love that scene.
Right? I know kung fu. That's one of the best. I
So
love it, yeah.
a little bit of a background. So I created another page to ease people into the app because the
Okay.
app was green on black, very scary. People thought it was a scam. They didn't want to click on any buttons.
Okay.
So the splash page is intentionally sort of generic with a white background because
Okay.
that evokes the room. I think it's the conduit. It's basically the learning room where it's all white.
Oh yeah.
Remember
yeah,
where?
yeah. Of course I do.
that-
And all the stuff, the guns or whatever comes. Yeah.
because it's sort of like it's a space that's sort of very neutral. Maybe it's like it's a liminal space between the actual matrix and the real world. And so I felt that was like a good way to relate how I wanted to introduce people to the app. It's sort of like, okay, you're in the real world, you're looking at a phone. There's a screen on the phone that reminds you of that space in the matrix,
Yeah.
which is where people load up on knowledge and weapons and everything, and they're learning.
Yeah.
And then once you do that,
Keep going. I'm good.
then you go into the matrix, which is the app.
Yeah,
So, awesome. Deliveries, nonstop. This is an operation here.
it's an operation. Yeah,
It's working.
Things are happening. You know, Eddie has to juggle a lot of things during these podcasts.
For sure.
But you're here in Taiwan. You're working on something. What are you working on?
So first of all, hope to hang out with my buddy from high school, Paul. End of the week, we're going to go to Beito. We're going to do some hot spring action. I've never been there. But beginning of the week until now, and maybe and tomorrow, working with the Bonsal team, which is Bonsai on Solana, which is verified compute on Solana, so off-chain computation using cryptography, zero knowledge. So this is one of the things.
Yeah.
One of the funny semi-viral posts related to my app is someone asked on Twitter, "How do I destroy the shitcoin community?"
That's a tough. That's a strong and loud community. You know, you got to be careful.
And the 8-bit oracle, the I Ching, comes back with double standstill hexagrams. Double standstill hexagrams meaning it's impossible to kill. And so one of the things that people might be curious about is this real? Did Augustine not press a button and generate that?
I mean,
Maybe.
yeah. They know it's hard to kill things anyway, so it wouldn't be too surprising.
And so And so, but the I Ching came up with such a perfect, out of the 64, it came up with basically the perfect representation of it's impossible to kill. And it was a stable hexagram, meaning no changing lines, also very unlikely. And so using something like a Bonsall, you can prove that this was a authentically generated hexagram.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's. I was reading up about it a little bit. I was still trying to understand it. It's kind of like
all are, yeah.
infrastructure for like ZK proofs and stuff like
Yes,
that. What
yes.
what exactly is that in
So-
practical terms?
I'll do my best, Chris. Don't shit on me. So basically, you can write a program that basically has a verified set of steps, and in my case, it's going to be a verifiable set of steps to generate a hexagram. So so the way you would do it for the I Ching is you would have a random seed, a number, from which, if you follow these steps, you will be guaranteed to generate that hexagram. And then you create a program for it called a ZK program. Then you deploy it on the approver network. And then you execute it once. And then once it's executed once, you get what's called a proof. Once that proof is there, other people can verify it very quickly and quickly. So easily and quickly. And so that's what the idea is. They're building like ZK proving infrastructure to allow complex off-chain computation to be done without impacting like the layer one itself. So you can but you can verify that that computation was done authentically. So people do it for like verifiable inference and verifiable training for AIs. And there's this whole concept of authentically generated media, like is this AI generated or not,
Right.
and things like that. So it has a couple different use cases.
All right, I'm a regular person. I don't know what you said.
Exactly, and that's
a lot
a
of
challenge
stuff.
with a lot of
Yeah.
Web3 crypto things. So I would say for the large majority of people, like
Right.
end users for a B2C app, it should be a seamless experience for them. For the 1 or 5% to 5% of people that are curious, they can click in. They will be able to view that this is an authentically generated hexagram on an Explorer of some kind. But then otherwise, for the large majority of people don't care about centralization, actually.
Right,
They don't care about privacy. They give their information out. And I think it's one of our responsibilities as being more technical and more enlightened is we need to sort of lead people towards a good path.
Right.
And that path needs to be beneficial and easy for them.
Okay, so to sum this up, this is more of a behind-the-scenes infrastructure project that people can't really tell what's happening, but it just helps prove that their experience is authentic when using on-chain products.
Yeah, and more generally, it's a way to sort of do basically computations off-chain, and then you can and then there's a way to sort of verify that that computation was done authentically, and then other people can verify that it was done in that way. So and it's an arbitrary computation almost. Whatever you can do in the ZK circuit. Chris, don't kill me now. Maybe we need to get the Bonsall guys at some point.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
They're here in Taiwan.
They're here in Taiwan. They're in the Cozy Cafe near Songshan. So
And I hear it's pet friendly too, so if you want to bring dogs. If not, I could be very wrong and like get your dog out of here.
I have not seen a dog there, but I wouldn't be surprised. It's a great co-working space. Shocked at how many people. Like Monday, it was sort of like half full, but yesterday it was like packed from 9:30 till 7. So,
Wow.
yeah,
All
quite
right,
a great space.
So
yeah.
with Bonsall, what's like their lead product right now? What's like the most exciting thing coming out of that?
So it is the Bonsall node.
Okay.
So they basically integrate with. They're building it now. It's an open source project, Bonsall-collective on GitHub, and they're building out the Bonsall node. And I'm helping them flesh out their developer onboarding. So I'm actually going through as a developer, and actually I might be the perfect developer guy for that because I don't know anything about ZK, right? So I'm coming in it just as a guy that wants to use their stuff for my use case,
Right.
which may or may not be fulfilled by ZK, but in this case it is because that's what they're doing. So I'm just going through their docs. I'm helping them firm up their docs, helping them fix some bugs and so on. Yeah.
So I'm still just thinking about this and trying to figure out what Bonsall is. Would this be a way to like identify if there are bots on socials, maybe something through a Galaxy campaign, just a way to verify through Bonsol services that these are authentic users, these aren't bots, this isn't spam, and then you can have that core group of quality users and not all these like airdrop farmers.
Yeah, I think sort of Sybil, S-Y-B-I-L,
Yes.
that's a very...
Technical term, yes.
And we haven't solved it yet. It's been
Okay.
around for a while. We always talk, Vitalik writes papers about it, and it's not been solved. I think Sybil is definitely an area that is solvable with the prover network, but it's an exploration. I think, yeah, and maybe we need to get the Bonsol guys. I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to spill too much, and I don't know
It's
much.
like too
of
much
what
has been revealed. It's live. There's no taking this back.
And they're cryptographers, and they're deep into it. So
All right,
we should get those
I'm
guys
just gonna
on.
walk away now.
Yeah. Okay. Later, Dan. Thank you. Pitch hitting. We're tag teaming.
Tagging
Boom.
back in
Done.
here. I appreciate that. I got one more question, actually. The hackathon.
Oh yes.
You won the hackathon. The champ is here. The champ is here.
Oh yeah. Oh.
All right. Hong Kong Consensus Hackathon champ right here. Tell me
That's
about
right.
that experience.
So I was one of the champions, not the, but
I'm
there's
calling you
a-
the champ.
Thank you.
I'm
I'll
calling
take
you the
it.
champ right now.
Okay.
If anybody has a problem, come and see me. Hopefully
yeah.
not anybody bigger than me.
Get
but
some,
yeah.
get some spicy
Yeah,
sauce
get some of this, yeah.
and some tacos, and then we'll have a chat. Funny experience. So that hackathon at Consensus, they say it's 2 days.
Okay.
It's actually a day and a half because you have to submit by noon on the second day.
Okay.
Me, being the diligent hackathon guy, I didn't start until the second day.
I know. I saw that. I was like, this
so-
guy's so confident.
so-
He's the guy sitting there, just chilling, doing interviews, hanging out with us, showing us around Hong Kong. And then he goes back and he wins.
I have to give a lot of thanks to the Origin Trail guys who helped me out. Their developer, the developer that they had on site, Marco, helped me set up, get testnet tokens, and he showed me, it was using the ELIZA plugin, so they actually already had an ELIZA plugin,
Gotcha.
which is basically an integration between that agent framework and their way to persist information into their database, which they call a knowledge graph.
Okay.
And all I did was I integrated that stuff with my agent, which is just a Telegram chat bot,
Okay.
which is also on ELIZA, which does divinations calling 8-bit Oracle, and she's styled after this street samurai called Molly, a neuromancer. So William
Okay.
Gibson, Neuromancer, very famous book, written in the 80s, predicts cyberspace, predicts ICE, which is basically countermeasure software to protect corporations and
Gotcha.
things like that. And so yeah, it was a very fun experience, and that's those are really important things for solo founders is marketing, but not paid marketing.
Okay.
It's sort of like,
yeah.
and it's sort of like, hey, I won something. Other people are saying good things about me and
Yeah.
my project.
Yeah.
Their reach is much. I have like 200 something followers. I have no
Dude,
reach. I
you're
have
the
no
man.
reach. But
all good.
I'm working on it. It's slow. It's a process.
That's how it starts.
Yeah,
man. Come
it
on.
start. I'm not buying followers. Okay, no.
There you go. No,
And,
don't do it.
And so and then they posted, and then and then of course it's It's like they have people who are into Origin Trail, and then I'm sort of getting some exposure to that
Like it.
whole ecosystem. So thanks very
Nice.
much to the Origin Trail guys for being such great people. But yeah, it was sort of. This is the thing when you're solo, like you have to do the code. Then for the hackathon, you have to do the submission. So the submission is I have to do slides. I have to fill out a form with all my details. Then they wanted you to tweet. So I had to create a tweet as part of the submission and then paste it in. So I had to do all of that stuff. So I was stressed out. I was very stressed out. And the other teams there, they looked more professional. They had more than one member. Well, one of the guys who I know from Macau, very good guy, he was also solo. But most of the other teams, they had teams, so at least you could have a guide go through the submission process. And so, say for people starting off on hackathons, like just don't be intimidated. Just go through, don't rush, take things step by step. And view it as a learning experience. Don't go in with the mindset that you're going to win. Just go in with the mindset that, hey, let me learn about this whole hackathon process, first
Okay.
of all.
Okay.
And then you will learn that actually the non-technical aspects might be as important, or maybe a little bit more important than the technical aspects. Yeah.
That is eerily similar to starting a podcast, eerily similar to YouTube channel, eerily similar to starting a restaurant. It's crazy because you're like, well, I make a pretty good taco.
Yes, exactly.
Let's do it, right? And then
No
it's
problem.
like, okay, you're making tacos, whatever, making food, and then you get a location, you have to learn marketing, and then when you get busy, you got to hire staff, and then when you have staff, you're the leader. They look to you for leadership. And you've got to be, and then sometimes this one guy is bugging another guy, and then you're like a parent.
Yeah.
And then there's just this whole amount of stuff where people, they're like, oh yeah, you should start a restaurant. It's pretty easy, right? You just
Sounds
make
good.
some good
Fun.
food. I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. That's tough.
Operations, marketing, distribution, those are all like,
And then
That's
and then marketing, you got to learn. Then you got to learn the platforms. You got to learn how to market. Then you got to have your email list. And then I go to what is it, Consensus, and then I'm like, would you guys use Line or Instagram? And everybody looks at me almost disgusted that I don't really use Twitter or Telegram.
Or WhatsApp,
I have them.
Yeah.
I have those two, and I just don't know anyone that uses them. But now apparently, anyone in the crypto space uses them. Like everybody.
That's right.
And they're like Telegram, and they're like Instagram. Like,
Instagram is a bit
normie.
too young
They're
for
like,
me.
Yeah. So, but for me with this, I have to use everything with the restaurant because, and then hopefully we'll be working on an app soon, one of these days, right? For that, but that's
the food app. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, we'll tell you a little bit. That's top. That's top secret. That's top secret still. That's still top secret. But yes, quick thing. KOL. Funny thing. People would come up to me. This is how like Web 2 I am. So people would come up to me and be like, hey, what are you doing here? What do you do? And I'd be like, okay, well, that's usually, I'm Mexican Canadian, came to Taiwan, opened a restaurant, have a podcast, blah, blah, and that's like the short version.
Yeah.
And then all these crypto people would just look at me like with this blank stare, like what the hell? And then I look at Dan, and Dan's
They look at you like fresh meat.
Dan's like, just say KOL. So the whole evening on the first night, I'm just saying, oh, KOL. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's cool. And then I get back at the end of the night, and I ask Dan, I'm like, what is a KOL?
Yeah, exactly.
And he has to explain what a KOL is, because I have no idea. There used to be this old video game called KOF, the King of Fighters.
Oh, yeah,
And I'm like, I wonder if it's like a spin-off. I'm like, King of Fighters?
Right on.
I'm like, I'm an old guy, dude. I'm a King of Fighters. I'm like, is that still going? I'm like, KOL. I know what SOL. I shit out of luck. I know what that means, but I don't know what KOL means. But apparently they're like, well, you are a KOL. I'm like, oh, okay. So interesting.
You bring up the Memex Festival. And one of the key learnings that I got was, as a builder, I always get messaged by KOLs to say, hey, when token, I'll help you do your marketing. I'll do mass DMs for you.
When airdrop.
When is it? And I'm like, okay, Dan, these are guys, these are all scammers, right? But I didn't realize you guys get the same thing from builders or maybe pump and dump projects.
Tell about that. Yeah, that's.
So I just didn't realize that. So for me, I'm always scared to talk to KOLs because that's my mindset. It's like an adversary, and it's probably wrong, but sort of adversarial. And I didn't realize, like, actually KOLs, there's risk and reputation for them to even talk to projects, actually, right? So there's a level of trust for even, and thank you very much that you give me this opportunity just to talk.
It's my
here.
pleasure.
So
I'm about the real talk.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Okay,
we.
I'm about the real talk, man. That's why when I'm talking to people, I'm like, I want to have like a real conversation. That's why I know it's a little bit old school, but I like the long form. I like the long. Let's have a good chat.
We're gonna spread it out, Rogan style, up to lunchtime.
I love the long. I love the long form, man. It's good. And then you can make your clips and stuff, which is good. But I love, like, let's get to know. There has been duds for sure. There's been interviews that have been like, I'm halfway through it and I'm thinking, oh my god, this is a dud. But
that's life.
That's life.
Yeah, that's life.
It's funny when I think of that's life. I say that to my daughter, but I always sing it. That's life. She hates it, but I have to do it more when she says that. But yeah, brother. I mean, we covered so much.
Covered a lot.
What do you? Anything else you want to hit here? What are you thinking?
Oh my God. We did cover a lot of ground.
Yes.
Do I show my stuff? Are we ending?
Please, yes. How?
Okay.
The last thing is always like, how do we find you? How can we get
So
access to the I Ching app, the 8-bit Oracle, all the good stuff we've been talking about?
I've sort of.
Yes.
This is a little bit of a nugget for you solo founders building things. My original URL is, it still exists. It's called 8 with the number bitoracle.ai.
Okay.
Now the problem with that is it's 4 concepts. It's hard for people to remember. And it's hard for people to even type in the URL because I'm not on the App Store. Because people might say, hey, do I spell out the 8 with an E? Do I use the number 8? And so the URL to easily access the landing page and that leads into the app is called tao.sh, tao.sh.
Okay.
5 characters and 1 concept. And then I'm on Twitter as DAO_CodePath. But
Okay.
my app also has a Twitter. It's at 8-Bit Oracle. And then, of course, my agent that does marketing and crypto news and sentiment and I Ching is called Pix. And so she's Pix, Pix.pink, DOTPINK on Twitter.
Okay.
But yeah, reach out to me. I'm also on Telegram as also DAO_CodePath. So sorry for boring everyone, but
No.
that's how you reach me. Yeah.
So to simplify that, I'm watching this. I want to talk to you. What should I do?
Go to tao.sh.
TAO.sh. Gotcha.
There's a Telegram button on the top.
Okay.
You just click that button, and then you will join our little community, our digital divination community, and I'm there.
Perfect.
I actually updated that group with some photos from the bus,
Okay. Oh.
and the YouTube link
okay.
to come here. So
Perfect.
they knew that I was on the bus and that I might be a little late, but I ended up being on time. So
And I was waiting for you outside here, and I saw you by the bank with your camera doing your big selfie thing. I'm like, oh, that must be him.
Yeah.
I saw the kung fu shirt, and I'm like, oh, it must be
yeah,
him.
red, white, and blue, baby.
Red, white, and blue. So you got to get the Neo plushie, red, white, and blue kung fu outfit.
We'll talk about it.
Right?
Yeah.
I know kung fu.
I do want to go into
Yeah.
hardware. I think because I'm right by Shenzhen, and I think and Huaqiang Bay, so there's a lot of.
That's where you can get that stuff done. Yeah.
I think once you go into hardware, there's a big leap in sort of differentiation because
Okay.
everyone, because the incremental step just to build software is much smaller than, hey, I need to integrate hardware to it, which is why I sort of like things
I love
like
that
this.
thing. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask you about that. That's
Tech Noir I Ching, that's sort of like
not just that. The actual thing, the actual name tag is cool too.
yeah.
I love that.
LED,
Yeah.
programmable through the phone. Got it at Ethereum DevCon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, through
Ooh.
a friendly German gentleman. FOSS Asia. Yeah.
German gentleman. All right. Okay.
Yes.
Cool, man. I love it. So, what's the next step for you, man?
So my next step is I want to have a completion, sort of have it on rails where it's monetized.
Yes.
Right now it's not, and that I can just do the normal route. No funny business. Buy ads, market it normally, and then see where it goes, and then I'll build incentive mechanisms to. Because some people are really good at interpreting the I Ching, and some people are really good at asking questions of the I Ching.
Okay,
So those are
okay.
both skills, actually.
Gotcha.
So like, how do I destroy the shitcoin community? Or
Okay.
and things like maybe the 8-bit Oracle comes back with an interpretation that someone might say, you know what, actually, this is the full background on the hexagram and the stories and things
Okay.
like that. So I want to have an incentive mechanism which is based on engagement.
Okay.
Which is why I'm looking at technology like Origin Trail. So they have something called a knowledge graph. So it's easier for me to track engagement when I integrate it with the Twitter data.
Gotcha.
So I want to build all of those mechanisms. And once I have that, then I'll have sort of hopefully Web 2 monetization with Web 3 incentivization.
Okay.
And then I'll have a platform that I can sort of repoint to some other B2C use cases.
Okay.
Because those are sort of like generic things that you want to have for sort of, that if you're going to you're going to need AI. I think every app is going to need AI.
Sure.
And then you want to have, if you want to attack the Web3 audience who are very technical and could be really devoted users, then you want to have sort of those mechanisms as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Last question. Best case scenario. We're going to manifest it here and now. 5 years from now, where is your project?
5 years from now.
Or 3 or 5. Let's go 3.
Manifest. So, I don't have I don't want to take over the world.
In Dubai, chilling on
no,
the yacht. No?
So this is the thing, like, it ties into fundraising, actually.
Okay.
Because when you fundraise, this is what I've learned. When you raise funds, you're actually putting a timer on yourself, and you're in a situation where you need to raise money.
Okay.
Because it's sort of like ammunition, and other people are raising money and competing with you,
Gotcha.
potentially in the same space.
Okay.
And so for me, I view it more like sort of like an art or a passion project, where I don't want to put that kind of external pressure on me, because I feel like that interferes with my creative process in what I'm building.
Yeah.
And so
you still need to.
But I still need to eat. So I want to have like sustainable monthly recurring revenue, such that I am not stressed out.
Okay.
And that I can then build other things that other people will enjoy. Maybe keeping along with the tech noir aesthetic.
Okay.
But it would be exploring different things. Maybe Western astrology. There's a lot of like like Persian, like coffee grinding, like reading tea leaves.
Okay.
Coffee thing. You can read the coffee thing.
One-stop shop for all astrology
All
stuff.
divination
all your
stuff.
astrology needs.
Astrology, divination, just to explore that area more fully rather than specifically in I Ching. That's something that I want to look at. Yeah.
I think, obviously, being Asian, Chinese, I think people that are not Asian or Chinese, they really love the Asian one. Like, I know there's all the different kinds, but everybody loves like the Confucius quotes, and everybody's just like, wow,
it's mysterious. It's
be like water. Like, everybody loves that because it's like, ooh, it's very. So I think that's
Zen.
a good one to start. Yeah, it's very Zen. Exactly. People love that.
And that's sort of the emotion that I'm trying to get with the app, is sort of to recall those kinds of that kind of curiosity and feeling.
People love that stuff
between the West and the East. And it all started off with Joaquin Bouvet introducing the I Ching to Louis XIV and so on. But there's a timeline on Tao.sh that goes through sort of my interpretation, or sort of the history of East-West interaction with the I Ching, which I feel is fascinating. And then you can discuss it with me and others in that group that's accessible. It's called Digital Rain Society, but you can click on that Telegram icon on Tao.sh, and then we can carry on the conversation after.
Let's do it,
after this podcast.
So you're thinking like really deep about like what I just said. I'm thinking George Costanza's mom, Donna Chang, and she's so excited. She's like, well, it must be real. I mean, she's Chinese. She knows. And then she meets her, and the person's white, and she's so disappointed.
Donna Chang.
That's great. Donna Chang. I'm Donna Chang. And she's like, what?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's awesome, man.
I love it.
But yeah, Seinfeld, all that good stuff. But we'll be talking all day about that. But man, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for watching.
Eddie.
Don't forget to find this man right here. Carry on the. Of course, I never. Find this man right here. Get all that stuff. Check it out. I Ching, all that good stuff. Don't forget to check out Full Value Dan. I didn't realize how much easier it was to have someone, an actual helper.
He's doing a lot of work in the
He's on the side doing my little El Gato box here.
I'm looking forward to the tacos later.
Yes,
we're going to do some co-working tacos at Eddie's Cantina.
That's right. In Tianmu. We're in Tianmu.
Tianmu. Come by. Take the bus. We're here for a bit.
Thank you, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for watching Eddie's show. We feel only happiness, don't feel any sorrow. Welcome, everybody, to watch more on his content. Eddie Live Podcast. Eddie Live Podcast.